Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Hear me. Start all over again. Good evening, Malcontents. My name is David. I am the Malcontent. And welcome to another episode of Malcontentment Happy Hour. Today is Monday, February 1st, 2021. Jennifer, how are you doing tonight?
I'm super good. I especially love the fact that you switched on my screen as I was adjusting my septum ring. So that looked great.
It's the little things of forgetting to turn off the mute button. Malcontent, straight up, before we go with our land acknowledgement, we do have to roll a disclaimer for tonight's show. And for those of you who maybe were just listening and not watching, it's a viewer discretion is advised tonight. We have some really heavy topics that we are covering tonight. And Jennifer and I have also picked some stuff to try to lighten the mood after we hit on some of these really heavy topics. Jennifer, how was your weekend?
It was really busy. I spent a lot of time working and playing with my horse. But other than that, yeah, nothing exciting because I don't really have a life. How was yours?
You know, I'm rocking a cold. It's not COVID. My nose is super runny and stuff, and I'm like, I think I'm rocking a little bit of a cold, and so I've been in a little bit of low gear. Today was really crazy for me because I had a lot of work with the real job, including two really good biz dev conversations. Fingers crossed on those. So, but with that, why don't we go ahead, Jennifer, and jump in because we have a lot of content tonight. And why don't we go into our first story? Oh, and one other thing before we go into those that first story, our mods and admins, they are paid in hearts. And so I always like to say, starting the show, spam those hearts. It messes with the algorithm on Facebook, Twitch, and Periscope, Twitter and Periscope, yes. You can also just put in Twitch or YouTube, just I love you mods. Also, folks on Twitch, if you're a subscriber, we have emotes now. We have really cool emotes. So if you're a subscriber, use those emotes and let people know. And with that, we're going to go ahead and start our first story. And our first story takes us out to Rochester, New York, where, quite frankly, Jennifer, one of the most horrible things I have ever seen in my life, and I've seen a lot of horrible things, happened in Rochester in broad daylight, all in body cam glory for all of America to see.
Yeah, no, it was something like, I have my daughter's 17 now, and my youngest child is 14, but I couldn't even imagine a child that age being put through something like that.
So to frame this up, we have two videos. There's actually multiple body cam videos that the Rochester Police Department released over the weekend. Of course, they released it over the weekend because you release bad news over the weekend. I say that as somebody who was in marketing for 20 years. You release bad news over the weekend because you hope that it goes to die in the news cycle. I will give credit to CNN and USA Today. Both of those which are very big news organizations, both amplified this story. The first video that we're going to show is from the incident before this 9-year-old child. Do not forget this when you watch this video, is brought to the police cruiser. Then we will stop, we'll unpack that video, and then we will show the second video. There is a disclaimer on both of these videos. This stuff is really hard to watch. And I had one hell of a time editing these videos today. And with that, Jennifer, I'm just going to go ahead and roll the first video.
Okay.
No!
Stop.
My arm!
247.
I am not.
247. I got her at 76 Harris. Just start a rig.
Get off of me!
Stop. What's going on?
Get off of me!
What's going on?
Get off of me!
I'm not gonna get off.
Get off!
What is going on? How can I help?
Get off!
No, because
I don't
you're not
want to be
gonna run.
there!
That's why they have me location.
Harris, you're not gonna run away from me, okay? Because I'm gonna have to chase you, okay? And I got like 6 other cars coming to chase you.
I don't care.
All right?
I don't care.
Well, come and talk to me, please.
No, I don't want to.
Dear. What is going on? What did you tell your mom?
What
did you tell your mom?
I'm not going.
235.
Huh?
I'm not going.
235.
I'm not going.
That's fine. But what did you tell your mom?
What?
What happened? Why are you so upset?
She stabbed my dad.
Who did?
Her.
She did? Okay.
That was my blood you seen off of my lip. The fuck?
No, it was not, because when he walked in the house, he was holding his stomach.
It was my blood. How the hell?
So your lip gonna bleed all the way down to your stomach, to your
Fighting
pants.
on the porch.
Who's your
yes,
dad?
you grown ass little girl. You're
Who's your-
grown as a bitch. You
who's
don't know
your
what
dad?
you're talking about. Look at you.
Who's your
That
dad?
was your blood of your lip. That much blood?
Yes, he had me in the head like you finna really make me do.
Ma'am.
Really finna go in on your
Hold on a
ass. Now,
second.
cause she's 9 years old and she's really behind. That's why she's
Here's
done.
what happened.
That's why she's done.
That
It's
was not
okay.
her
You
blood.
sit there, watch this man put his hands on me all the time.
He's
all
not
the time.
Did you stab him?
No, I didn't.
Yes, he
It was
did.
my
Yes, he did. Yes, he
How
did.
do you know that?
Because
Right, how do you know that? It
Yes,
was my
because
outside.
when he walked in the
Come
house,
to my car, let's
when he
talk.
walked
It's
in the
freezing
house,
out. Come on.
he was holding. Okay, so your
Hold on.
lip gonna
I'm
go
not-
with his blood, and
He had me in the headlock.
I'm not
So you
saying.
stabbed him?
I'm sitting here arguing with him. Yeah, so I stabbed him. I stabbed him.
Yes, you
Okay.
did.
I just put the police on him. They gonna find him.
No.
He is.
No.
They gonna find him.
Dude, just
And
come
we
with
gonna
me to
see.
my
You
car,
gonna get
right?
your
Let's
ass
talk.
for sitting here lying.
I'm not.
Come on.
I'm not going to that.
First of all, Steviana,
Uh-huh.
you gonna bring your ass to this motherfucking house, and I'm gonna ask you one more time. You gonna bring your ass to this house if I yoke your ass up and drag you home? I got custody. You're my child. So you gonna take your ass home right now, and you gonna take your ass in the house.
All right, come on. Hold on. Not helping you.
Go the
Not
fuck in the
helping
house
anything.
now.
Come on.
47.
Come on. Ma'am,
I wish you might.
if you want my help, just get up.
I wish you might.
Come on.
Who the fuck is you talking to like that? Get away. Who the fuck is you talking to like that? Who the fuck is you talking to like that? No.
Come on, you gotta come with me. You gotta come with me.
Who the fuck is you
Come on.
talking to like that?
Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, dear. All right, listen, do me a favor. Do me a favor, go back to the house. Go back to the house, all right? Dear, you're not running away from me. You're not running away. Come on.
Can I help ya?
Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Can I help ya? Can I help you?
Come on.
Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you?
All right, let's go. Stop. Enough.
Can I help you?
Enough.
And you can suck my dick. And you can suck my dick. And you can suck my dick. What's up?
Enough.
What up? What up? But say shit pussy about me. What up?
Come on, stop.
What up?
Stop.
What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? Get out the car. Get out the car. Get out the car. Right, you still talking? Let me go. You're talking though. Bitch. That's the ass bitch.
Yeah, Mom's trying to start a fight with cars driving by now, so get a couple cars down. Stop.
Stop.
Put her in your car.
No. No.
Yeah. Stop.
I want my dad.
You gotta tell. Listen, you gotta tell this officer what you
I
told me.
want my dad.
Come on.
I'm not going nowhere. I want my dad.
247. We don't need you here. Hey, get back in your house.
Going to listen.
No, I want my dad.
You're not gonna run off.
I want my dad.
Stop.
I want my dad. I'm not getting in no car. I want my dad. I want my dad. No.
The second half, there's two videos. The other video starts roughly where we ended this video and the two overlap. And so that's why we cut the video where it's at. Jennifer, this is really, really tough for me to talk about.
Yeah. It's ugly. I mean, what gets me is, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in one of the stories, but there are people out there claiming that, certain narratives create distrust for people in the Black community or BIPOC community more broadly in the police. But it's actually incidences like this that create that mistrust.
And I think that's a really good place to start the conversation. One of my thoughts that I had in watching this, and then there's some other thoughts I have, but I'm going to save it for the second half, is the child becomes just absolutely terrified when they're going to go to put her in the back of the cruiser. And for a Black child in America in 2021, in the era of George Floyd, this seems like a very rational response in the mind of a child.
It seems like a rational response from any child, let alone a child, a Black child. I mean, that response, I'm sure, is intensified. But I know if somebody were to try and take my child at 9, when he was 9, and try to put him in the back car, he would have had a similar response. But imagine that fear being intensified because, you have the skin color of people who are continuously targeted by the police.
Yeah. One of the other things that jumped out at me in that first section is when the child made the accusation that her father was stabbed, and very interesting, Rochester police have been tight-lipped on that one. They have neither confirmed nor denied anything about the parents. If anybody has even been like in a car accident and the police show up at a car accident and the he said, she said starts, what's the first thing the police tells the other party? Take a walk.
Yeah.
You're go away. I am talking. And not only did they never did that, the mother assaulted the child while the police was restraining the child on body camera, and the officer didn't even acknowledge it.
Yeah. There's so much absolutely wrong with this entire situation. And I think we should save a lot of the commentary we have for the second half we're about to show.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll go ahead and play the second half of this clip. There's a warning on the second half of this clip. The other, we will do the land acknowledgement after we do this story. This story is way too sensitive and way too important to break with the land acknowledgement at this point. We will do it at the end of this particular segment. This second clip is really hard to watch. Now, one of the things that we've done for you, the audience, is there some areas where things are hard to hear or unintelligible. We have put the words on the screen so that you can read some of the things that are being said, not just by the 9-year-old child, but by some of the police officers as it just spirals out of control. So try and stick with us and watch this second half.
Here, let's go have a seat.
No, I want my dad.
You're not gonna run off.
I want my dad.
Yes, you're gonna be fine. Stop.
I got 2
I
seconds.
want my dad. I'm not getting in no car till I see my dad.
Here, just stop for a second.
I want my dad.
Stop.
Control 47, I'm in
I want my dad. No.
Stop. Don't kick us, dear.
Stop! Oh my God!
Stop, dude.
Okay,
Just relax.
okay.
You
Wait, my
done?
mom, she's pregnant.
Are you done?
My mom
Are you done?
pregnant. Oh yes, please just
Stop.
let me go. I want my dad.
Stop. You're
Please.
you good?
Give me a
2-4,
break.
son.
I want.
I know.
For us, sir.
Bob's still trying to play.
Ma'am, hey, get out of the street for me. Get out of the street. Get out of the street for me. Just stand out of the street.
I want my dad. I want my dad. I want my dad.
It might be either this.
I want my dad.
Car out here.
I want my dad. I want
You
my
gotta stop
dad.
and take a breath. You're all right.
Stop.
Can I just see my dad, please? I want my dad. Wait, can I just please get the snow off of me?
I'll get the snow off you.
It is cold.
You've had your chance.
Get in the car now.
Okay?
Okay?
You've had your chances.
I want
What are you doing?
I want
What
my
are you
dad.
doing?
I want
You're
my.
gonna go to jail now too.
I want my
Have a
dad.
seat,
Wait,
dear.
I just want to see my dad, please. For the last time.
Get
I
in the
want
car.
my dad.
Get in the car.
I demand it.
I don't care what you demand. Let's go.
I
She's
want.
got her leg underneath my car.
Stop! I want my dad. I want my dad.
Stop or you're gonna get yourself hurt.
Stop! He's hurting me. I want to. Oh my God!
Then get in the car.
Please help somebody. No!
You want me to grab it from the other side?
I want my dad. Stop!
Sit her up.
Stop!
Sit up.
No!
You're acting like a
I
child.
want to.
Stop.
I am a child. The fuck!
I just went back to the house.
My arm! I have a
All
bad arm!
Stand up. Stand up.
Yeah, let
I
that
have a
go.
Stand
bad
up.
arm!
Then stand up.
I want my dad!
I can't hurt. She's on the
I
ground.
want a girl officer!
Stand up. Stand
I
up.
want a girl officer! She's right here. You're gonna get sprayed. I want a girl officer!
Stand up.
Stand
baby.
up.
I want a girl. Please don't stand up for me.
Okay, they'll get off of you, but you have to get up, okay? Will you get up? Can you let go of her? I got her. I got her. Come on. I will. They will let go, but you gotta stand up. Stand up. Will you stand up for me? Will you stand? Hey, look at me. Stand up.
I can't the way I'm sitting.
Ready? Yep. Good job.
A little bit more.
My arm.
A little bit more.
Look. Good, there you go.
He's pulling too hard.
Chill. It's okay. I know. I know. Go ahead.
Are you
Sit
gonna-
back for her. Sit back for him. Okay?
I'll let go if you're gonna be.
Sit
If
back
you're gonna
for him so
stop.
he doesn't pull you, okay?
I want my dad.
I'll find your dad, okay? But you need to sit back. Put your foot here.
No,
And sit back.
I want my dad.
I'm gonna get your dad, okay? But you need to get warm, otherwise you're gonna get hypothermia. So sit back, okay? I'll get your dad, I promise.
want my dad.
Is he here?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll find him, okay? But you, hey, look at me. I can't find your dad until you sit back and I can close the door, okay? I will find your dad. I will fix it. I will fix it.
If we need to, why don't we separate him outside?
Let's just sit back. I want to see my dad.
Yeah.
Come on. Not until you sit back. Sit back. Come on. Put your legs in. It's your last chance. Last chance. I'm going to go get your dad. Come on.
I want to call him.
I will call him. Sit back. Come on. They are losing their patience. Okay? Come on. Come on.
Good section.
Come on. Good job. Come on. You're almost there. Come on.
I want my dad.
Come on. Use that
What's
chin
her
to
name?
back. I don't know her name. What's
Bradstreet, what's her name?
Sit back.
Dear, why, you just stop for a second and take a deep breath. Hey, just stop.
Please. I will get your dad.
No, you said that you were going to pepper spray me. No, please, no, stop.
Sit back.
Oh, I got a bad arm.
Just spray her.
No, I have
Just
a bad
spray her at this
arm.
point.
Stop. Stop.
Dear,
Stop.
I got her. I got her.
Please, wipe my eye. Wipe my eye, please.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, understatement of the night. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I need a few seconds. I really need a few seconds. I saw a couple of malcontents tap out. I don't blame them. The team knows that I've watched this video multiple times because I had to edit it. So, and it doesn't get easier.
No, it's gross. It makes me like viscerally angry to watch it. The fact that they couldn't even bother to ask her name. The fact that they thought that pepper spray was the answer to deal with a child clearly having, both a reaction to what's going on, but also horrified. She's asking for a female officer, which is not an unreasonable request. She's not, of course she's upset, but she's not being rude. She's, saying ma'am, she's asking politely. But the fact that they pepper sprayed her and then didn't offer to wipe her eyes out when she asked, that made me so.
You could say it. I won't hit the button.
Oh my God. The fact that these assholes still even have jobs and are paid is beyond me. The fact that there were 15 police officers to restrain a 9-year-old child is disgusting.
It was 9 officers.
It
was 9 officers that were involved in a call for a single 9-year-old child. If I had a little more time tonight, I would have replayed the clip when the Proud Boys charged at the Capitol, the pedestrian barricades. There were less officers there than the 9. They were all white, by the way, Jennifer, if you didn't notice that. All white officers for a black 9-year-old child, although her race hasn't been identified. The video very, very clear because we can see skin on her back, skin on her. She's very, very clearly a black child.
Well, yeah, I apologize. It wasn't 15. It was 9 officers and 5 police cars, I believe, called in to restrain a 9-year-old child. And she's clearly concerned about her father. So something occurred there, which is also an extremely natural response for a child, especially if there's been some kind of incident. This was this was so grossly mishandled. I can't understand for the life of me why they were not immediately relieved of their duties without pay. I can't.
She asked for a female officer. The female officers, like right here, tried to take over, and then who pepper sprays her in the face? The female officer.
The female officer was not even remotely compassionate to this child. Not one bit. Not one.
So we have some updated news or some breaking news out of Rochester, New York tonight. An unannounced number of police officers have been suspended involved in this incident. There were 9 officers total on the call. Rochester did not say how many of those officers have been suspended. They are suspended with pay. The mayor has expressed utter frustration that is the only power that the mayor has because police union contract.
I'm sorry, but fuck that. Like, that is just... You wonder why there's such an egregious abuse of power by police officers. It's because they fucking get away with it continuously, and nothing is done.
One of the things that I'm left to wonder, if this is how Rochester police behaves in broad daylight on a Friday with a 9-year-old child with multiple body cams rolling, how do they behave at 2 a.m. in a dark alley on a drug dealing call?
I mean, is that even a question we have to answer?
Well, I think it certainly raises the question on police conduct, because if they're that comfortable and that brazen with the body cams rolling, and there are multiple moments that we see in those videos, like for instance, in the first video, the body cam gets turned around and it's this way. And so at one point he consciously turns it back, and then that body cam, we cut this part out. There's a body cam you see that falls on the ground. They pick that body cam up and the officer reattaches it back to their uniform. They knew what was going on with being filmed, and they didn't give a fuck.
No, they did not give a fuck. Who the fuck does that to a child and thinks that's acceptable and says, hey, let's fucking put this on camera? It's because they know they're essentially untouchable.
This represents so much, and there's so much at work here. Clearly, this child is in a dysfunctional and broken home. That is really clear. And after the child was examined at a hospital, guess what officials did?
They sent her home.
They sent her home. It's mind melting.
Absolutely.
That child got no justice, no protection, no care, no nothing. And the best that they could probably hope for is like a paid vacation for the police officers involved.
And that's the part that pisses me off so much about the female officer. Clearly, this child has been mistreated by her mother. We saw her mother go after her on the camera. So all she's looking for is like a little compassion from a female officer. And this woman is so callous, she can't fucking give her that. So why are you doing your job if you can't have any kind of compassion, regardless of your fucking gender, for a 9-year-old child? Sorry.
And when I watch that video, do you know who, to me, is the only one that is remotely acting like an adult in that entire video?
The child?
The child. The child is.
And then
please, ma'am, I want a female officer, which, by the way, as a female, that is her right.
So here's the thing. She clearly has some familiarity already with police if she knows to ask for a female officer.
Well, because as we have heard, and now we get into that dangerous tightrope for us as white allies, Jennifer, but we have heard from everybody who has black children that they have to have the talk. This is how you have to behave around the police so you don't end up with a bullet in your head.
That is absolutely, yeah. I mean, I can't even fathom having to have that talk with my child. There's no way I could fathom that.
This is one of those stories that I know people want to look away because it's so awful. I mean, for me, this is on par with George Floyd. This is just as bad. And don't look away.
Yeah.
It isn't the sense don't look away in that embrace the horror, embrace this sick pornography of it. Is we have to do better. This is January 2021. This is after all Black Lives Matter. This is things are winding down. And even in that environment, this is what's going on. And this is only the stuff we see on camera. Don't forget that.
Absolutely. So here's the thing too, after most of these, when Jacob Blake, George Floyd got shot, people immediately went to try to find the wrongs that they did to justify what they did to deserve this. How are you going to do and try and make that same argument with a 9-year-old child?
Yeah, exactly. And then the police, they had to spray her with an irritant
Yeah.
Pepper spray is not an irritant. I've taken pepper spray to the face multiple times. It fucking sucks, and I'm an adult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm an adult knowing what I'm signing up for.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an awful story. And I'm telling you, don't let this one get swept under the rug, malcontents. If you're watching us, you know, in the New York area, first of all, I got to say, we collectively were like, oh man, there's good. So kudos to the community in Rochester, New York, who at least appear in the Black community taking a breath. We did share a Zoom meeting that was going on with a number of very outraged Black leaders in the community that they made public in that meeting. We have that up on our Facebook page if you want to go back and watch that. I think it's a very good thing to watch and listen to, where they're plotting their next course of action on how to deal with this. But the rage is absolutely building in Rochester, and paid vacations don't even begin to justify what happened there. Anybody who thinks this is funny, go pepper spray a 9-year-old kid in front of a cop and see what happens to you. You're not going to find the consequences of that very funny. And frickin' qualified immunity. Friggin' these police union contracts are complete bullshit.
Mm-hmm. They really are. Or anybody who thinks it's funny, go fucking pepper spray yourself in the face. Shut up. Like,
Yeah. All right. All right, malcontents, let's take a deep breath. Jennifer, let's go ahead. I think in a way maybe doing the land acknowledgement after this might be a little better to actually kind of clear the air, so to speak.
Yeah, because I totally need to stop saying the F word. My apologies.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
So before I do this, I actually did a little bit of research today and tweaked our land acknowledgement a little bit to kind of reflect some more current versions in the area.
Okay.
So Malcontent News comes to you from Seattle, Washington, the occupied homelands of Coast Salish peoples. We are grateful to live and work as guests on these lands, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Duwamish, Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. This land acknowledgement is but one small gesture in the ongoing process of working towards repairing and sustaining relations with Coast Salish lands, waters, peoples, and their other than human kin.
Jennifer, thank you so much for that. And malcontents, thank you for keeping us honest. It actually did slip not to do it first, but I sincerely do feel it actually worked out for the best that this came on the end of that. I do feel it kind of has cleared the air a little bit. And with that, we're going to go, we're going to do a little pause for the cause, and then we're going to go into our next segment. Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you. Okay, malcontents. where it's that time of day again. We are going to do Malcontented Minutes again. And we've listened to your feedback, and we have made some changes to how we're going to be doing things. So here is the thing. Mods and admins, time to drop the link, and then maybe you could drop that link. Oh, it was like, a link? Yes, there is a link. There's a link to a poll. If you go to that poll, although I would say you probably should wait to the end to vote, but we will keep dropping that as we go through Malcontented Minutes. You get to control the news because you get to vote for the story that Jennifer and I will go deeper in at the end of the show when we do our Malcontented Minutes. And we have 10 pieces ready. Jennifer, are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to do it. I'm going to take it off first.
All right.
And let me start the timer. All right, story number 1 takes us to Texas. Texas had an Amber Alert this morning go very, very wrong when a test of the system resulted in an alert to be on the lookout for... Let me just play this video for you.
Subscribers of the Texas Alert System received a strange Amber Alert this morning in the search of a Chucky doll. Yeah, you're hearing that right. Texas DPS mistakenly sent out this Amber Alert for the Chucky doll and his supposed child, Glenn. The Amber Alert listed the character from the Child's Play horror series as a 28-year-old suspect, quote, wielding a huge kitchen knife. The alert was sent via email 3 times to subscribers in the system. DPS says the alert was a test malfunction and are working to ensure something similar does not happen in the future.
All right, Jennifer, 60 seconds. Unpack it for us.
I don't even know what to say about that other than like it's Texas. It's Texas and Florida. I mean, Chucky, David, I can't. I don't even know what to do with that.
Be on the lookout for a 28-year homicidal doll with a very large knife.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, where's his bride? Where'd she go? I mean...
Okay, Jennifer will go ahead and restart the timer, and you can start story number 2.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, you go.
Okay. So, Meghan Markle, of course, had to shut down claims from a British tabloid about Archie's birth certificate that she had become so demanding that she wanted HRH, or Her Royal Highness, on the birth certificate rather than Rachel Meghan, which is actually her first and middle actual name. So publicists for Markle actually came out and said, no, this was not something she did. And they were like really adamant about this, not something she did, but rather was requested by Buckingham Palace. And this is extremely problematic because Markle, of course, has been the subject of a lot of ridicule because she is BIPOC, because of the longer history of Britain and the British Empire, and it also adds fuel to the fire about, perceived controversies between her and Kate Middleton. I ended early.
End scene. She's been through hell. I just don't know how else to put it, right? She's just been through hell. The British tabloid press has been awful to her. By all reports, the royal family's been awful to her. That's why the two of them are like, we're out.
Yeah, peace.
I'm out. We're moving.
Yeah.
And it's just gross.
It is. It's extremely gross. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's all I have to unpack that one.
Yeah, I think it pretty much says everything it needs to say.
And by the way, Malcontent, you might have noticed we got rid of the buzzer. I didn't tell you that one. I wanted to keep that as a surprise. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and do story number 3. Story number 3 takes us to the Missouri History Museum, which has opened up a virtual exhibit on LGBTQIA history within the state. It is now available online to anybody for free. The exhibit is virtual for now, but the museum is looking for artifacts to add to the collection for a 2024 live exhibition. Museum officials are asking the public within Missouri to share LGBTQI mementos, no matter how big or small. And they point out that you may have something around your house that you're like, and they're like, no, we actually may be very interested in it. So even if the smallest items may be of value for documenting the evolution of the LGBTQIA community in the Show Me State. The mod team is going to share a URL in the comments to the exhibit. I got tongue-tied, Jennifer. Go ahead and unpack it for us.
So I think that's a really good thing that they're creating this space to kind of celebrate LGBTQIA people, and I think creating more spaces like this. This is very similar to what we talked about last week, turning this old KKK center into kind of a center that talks about racism. So transforming these spaces into something good that can serve underserved communities, I think, is always a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I thought it was a great story, especially as you look at a state like Missouri, right, which is going progressively redder and redder and redder. They were one of the states that you covered last week that's trying to pass these transgender laws. So it is good to see that the art community is saying "fuck you" to the people that are trying to do that.
This is written. This is written.
Okay, I think we're going to go to you in story number 4.
Okay, so in less feel-good news, Carmen Vasquez, a longtime LGBTQIA activist, Puerto Rican, grew up in Harlem, passed away at the age of 72 from COVID complications, but that's not something I really necessarily want to focus on because we have the whole COVID stuff coming already. But she did some really amazing things, came back to New York in the 90s, became the director of public policy at the LGBTQ Community Center from 94 to 2003, and helped form the New York State LGBTQ Health and Health Services Network from 2003 to 2007. More recently, in her lifetime of work for the LGBTQIA community, Vasquez co-chaired the board of directors of the Woodhull Freedom Foundation, an organization dedicated to promoting sexual freedom, and was the coordinator of the New York State Department of Health LGBT Health and Human Services Unit. She also did some amazing work with LGBTQIA elders, which she was celebrated for. So rather than discussing this in the context of another COVID death, I think we should celebrate Carmen Vasquez's long body of work that contributed to the gains made by the LGBTQIA community.
And I would totally agree with that. It's a shame, right? We've had to report in the last 5 days the death of 2 pioneers in this community. One from COVID, one from apparently, would you say, natural causes. There was nothing else to indicate otherwise. It's an indication of how far the community has come, but likewise also an indication of how far that community needs to go, the LGBTQIA community. I think one of the things that has happened that's it's definitely a net positive, is there is a general more acceptance in the sense of sexuality and what goes on between consenting adults in a bedroom or a kitchen or the basement, or is the business of consenting adults.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah.
What's that?
I didn't say anything. I just said yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. With that, we're going to go to story number 5.
Okay.
Story number 5. David Bell was the director for Central County Fire in Missouri outside of St. Louis when he fell ill. Over the period of a week, his wife Sadie brought him to Barnes Jewish Hospital twice, where his complaints about his medical condition were dismissed by physicians in the ER. On his 3rd trip, a fireman that he works with drove him to the hospital after he exhibited severe problems breathing and then called his wife. Sadie found Bell in a wheelchair outside of the hospital, same one, Jewish Barnes, with doctors refusing to see him, saying he had already been there 2 previous times and there's nothing wrong with him. As she was assisting them to their car to drive them to a different hospital, he said, and I quote, "Oh, Sadie," and collapsed on the ground. A good Samaritan started CPR in the hospital parking lot. David Bell, a black man, was declared dead. GoFundMe has been set up with a target of $15,000, and over $50,000 had been raised when we went to airtime. Jennifer, a lot to unpack on that story.
Yeah, man, we've got a lot of heavy stuff to cover tonight. And I mean, just again, testament to the existence of systemic racism in our society. that continue to jeopardize the lives of BIPOC people. And just a very, very sad story. I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this now. And this is a really sad way to have to start off Black History Month too, David.
It's a fucking horrible way to start Black History Month.
Yeah.
All right, Jennifer, why don't you start us with story number 6.
Oh, with more racist propaganda bullshit, we have Jason Rance's column on mynorthwest.com. Basically, racism guised as conservative principles, where he's going off on a nonsensical diatribe about Seattle Public Schools teaching radical BLM anti-police lessons to K through 5 students. And basically, it's Black History Month. Teachers have some liberty with what they can teach people, teach students. And so there's myriad ways, teachers are actually engaging these discussions of Black History Month. And so there's an entire week that is, he claims, dedicated to affirming the demands of the Black Lives Matter movement. He says it's a political movement that was created by a coalition of leftist activists to teach kids as young as pre-garden to be adherents to social justice causes, because being adherent to social justice causes is very terrible, Jason. Oh my God, I think you are just a horrible person. And he says also that some teachers, even those who support the movement, think the lessons and approaches go too far, but he doesn't give any specific examples of this because it's terrible journalism and just writing more broadly. I'm sorry, I'm really furious at this dude. This is awful. And so he goes on to quote this lesson on the Day of Demands, including restorative justice, empathy, love, and engagement, and introduces students to a number of radical views, such as Black Lives Matters is an ideological and political intervention in a world where Black lives are systemically and intentionally targeted for demise. How is that a fucking radical view, Jason? How is that a radical view when it's true? You poor oppressed white man.
So Jennifer... You're like 45 seconds over, so I'm going to call time, but people can vote. If they want us to talk about this one, you can vote. We'll talk about it more. I have 2 really quick hot takes because I gave you basically my time. Number 1, Jason Rance, history is going to be talking about Black Lives Matter long after history has forgotten about you, buddy. And number 2?
Chud. Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers.
That's right, Jason. That chud was for you. All right, let me go to story number 7. Story number 7, the video speaks for itself. On January 31st, the pandas at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. enjoyed the snow. So, Malcontent, enjoy 51 seconds of pandas playing in the snow. Almost got that timing down perfect, Jennifer. Jennifer, that is yours to unpack.
Man, I needed that, David, because I was so bad after the rants thing in our first video. I was like, oh, pandas, that is amazing. So yay, pandas. Pandas are adorable. I wish I could be a panda and go play in the snow. I don't really have anything to say, but other than thank you for that. That palate cleanser right there.
Who lives under the willow tree? Sexual harassment, panda.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to be like an older millennial to actually get that joke at this point. I think Gen Z might have just gone, what the hell was that about? I can't believe South Park is that old.
Look at it. Look it up.
Go look up sexual harassment panda. Jennifer, you get to follow pandas playing in the snow. So good luck with that.
I am super thrilled about this story, mostly because I just spent a week teaching Indian removal to my college course, and it is the most frustrating, then followed up by slavery in the antebellum South. So I've had 2 really difficult weeks of teaching. But this week, Joe Biden replaced Andrew Jackson's portrait with a portrait of Benjamin Franklin and art from a Chiricahua Apache sculptor named Alan Hauser. This is particularly big news, especially for Native peoples, because Jackson was a self-declared Indian hater. He actually, was very vocal about his dislike or hatred of Native peoples. He was also, of course, the architect of the 1830 Indian Removal Act that resulted in the Trail of Tears. But not only the Trail of Tears, there were actually multiple removals that stemmed from that particular act. And numerous deaths, loss of land, dispossession, all of these things. So getting him out of the Oval Office and replacing him with Franklin, who was actually fairly friendly to Native peoples, and artwork from an Apache sculptor is huge, and I'm very thrilled about this decision.
Would you say Andrew Jackson is the original Chud?
Oh, absolutely. You know what? I have my misgivings about Thomas Jefferson, too. Don't get me started. But Jackson was really, quite frankly, a terrible human being.
He was a terrible human. And your reference of Trail of Tears, he defied a Supreme Court order and removed the Cherokee people out of Georgia and Tennessee.
Yeah, actually, after Justice Marshall ruled in Rochester v. Georgia that, Georgia could not apply state laws to Cherokee land, the Cherokee Nation, he basically said, well, Marshall made that ruling, let him enforce it.
Yeah, just gross.
Yeah.
The original Chud, Andrew Jackson, excised from the White House. Mm-hmm. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead to story number 9. Story number 9. Hey, if you filed or have been collecting unemployment, you're going to love this story. Washington State has announced that anybody who applied or received unemployment from January 1 to 2020 to December 10, 2020, just got another knee to the groin. The identity information, including social security number, bank account and routing numbers, driver's licenses, other IDs, and in some cases, child support information was all hacked. 1.6 million people. The state unemployment system has been plagued by technology issues and incompetence since COVID created a massive spike in unemployment claims in the state. State Auditor Pat McCarthy may have made the understatement of 2021. Of course, it is only February 1st when they said, this is completely unacceptable. Jennifer, you get 60 seconds to unpack that shit show.
I have nothing to say. Unemployment in Washington State since the beginning of COVID has been nothing short of a train wreck. You've had people that have, were waiting multiple weeks to get money during a pandemic when they didn't have access to money. I had friends that were, in waiting on identity issues and all kinds of things that were not resolved for actually literally months without pay. There was the whole issue with them being scammed prior and having to get money back, which actually froze a lot of people's unemployments for some time. But this has been so woefully mismanaged. I don't understand how the people in charge of ESD have kept their jobs.
Not only kept their jobs, Jennifer, but Levin got promoted to go work for the Biden administration.
Yeah.
Okay, before we do the last story number 10, mods and admins, if you could drop the link to the poll. We've got one more story. Jennifer's going to deliver it. So now is the time, or if you already have a favorite, you should listen to Jennifer's, but you probably want to pull that poll up and be ready to vote. You need to vote early and often. We will be checking IDs, and Republicans will be protesting the vote afterwards. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
And with that, Jennifer, why don't you go ahead and bring us to number 10 while I go pick up my show notes, which just fell all over the floor.
Awesome. So there's this weird thing after the GameStop and AMC Reddit, whole Robinhood issue that happened last week. There's this weird thing now going on with silver futures. And so been claimed that Reddit traders are actually trying to, quote, try their squeeze, play with metal, but there's some contestation of who's actually trying to mess with silver prices right now. Because if you look, there's actually several Redditors are like, no, we're not doing this. And so the forum has multiple active threads dedicated to silver on Sunday night, and the phrase, quote, silver squeeze was trending on Twitter. And so it says it's a very different target, but the fact that you can move silvers to a large market is an indication to everybody that they have to take these new technicals seriously. But the silver discussion on Reddit was not all in favor of buying the metal and related equities, with some users arguing that the silver squeeze is an attempt to distract from the trading in GameStop and others. While other posts were in favor of bidding up silver, and one user on Friday night referenced the Hunt brothers' attempt to corner the silver market in the 1980s. If nothing else, the Winklevosses have gained some more notoriety on the whole silver squeeze thing, with Cameron Winklevoss tweeting, the ramifications of a silver squeeze cannot be underestimated. If it's exposed that there are more paper claims on silver than actual silver, not only would payout be enormous, but gold would be next. Bitcoin fixes this.
A silver squeeze sounds like something Sexual Harassment Panda would talk about.
Exactly.
Well, the first panda, the second panda, the third party panda. Here's my view on it. I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole because this is what I know about trading commodities. It's almost as bad as shorting a stock in a really good way to lose a lot of money very, very fast. And that's my view on it. Okay, Malcontents, give us your feedback. We listened. We changed. Let us know. I already saw feedback. You like the ding ding, and we have it 6 seconds before instead of right at the end. We tried to slow down our reads and our pace. And the other thing that we did here was maybe not be so strict on the time. If someone's running over, we're just taking the time away from the conversation. And then the final thing, we already knew that you would be going, but I want to talk more about this one. That we already knew, and that's why we just didn't have the poll ready for you. Go vote, and then the mods, admins will let us know what the winning story is. And that's the one that you said that you liked the most. And we'll go ahead, and that's the one we're going to play. The other thing is we go in there, it's another time to remind you, mess with those algorithms, spam those hearts. Let those mods and admins know that you appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. And Jennifer, I'm seeing lots of comments from our Twitch community that they're like, I just earned, this emote or that emote. And so there's a lot, they're loving the emotes. They were done by Rosa for us, by the way. And we were just thrilled to be able to support Rosa and have her support us.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They are. Yours is fantastic.
I know. I wish I could get my hair that color.
If you don't know what we're talking about, Twitch users, let them know in the chat what we're talking about. Those emotes, by the way, merch is coming, and they're going to be on merch. By the way, I haven't seen any comment about my shirt. I bought this for the show.
I didn't know if you were like having some self-loathing going on or what. So I figured let's just leave it alone.
All right, with that, I think we're going to go to the next segment.
Okay.
Jennifer, we had some updates on this story come out while we were planning the show late this afternoon. Why don't you go ahead and give us a quick update?
I feel like you're just trying to make me angry this evening. I don't know. This is not good, but I'm not surprised that Chad Oates, former Seattle Seahawks offensive tackle Chad Wheeler, entered a not guilty plea in domestic violence case, and basically requested that he be able to return to his home in Hawaii rather than staying on house arrest in this area. And the judge denied that. But what I really would like to focus on here is just how brave his victim was for sitting in court with her dislocated arm in a sling and telling the judge, I do not feel safe. if he is released in any way, do I feel safe? She had a victim advocate speaking on her behalf. But the fact that she actually went into that courtroom and, sat there and watched this man plead not guilty when he literally attempted to murder her, is just, I think, something that, she deserves a lot of praise for, because that is a very, very difficult thing to do. So I'm not surprised at all that he pled not guilty. I'm not surprised at all that he tried to, go and leave the area and go to his home in Hawaii. But he, of course, we talked last week, came out and was super apologetic on Twitter about what happened. But we also talked about how that's part of the cycle of domestic violence. People apologize, and then it's not long before they return to the same behavior. So I was very happy to see how strong and resilient she is. And I think she, again, deserves a lot of praise for going in there and sitting through that, because that is not an easy thing to do. One last thing before I close out, if anybody is experiencing domestic violence, there is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. There is an entire website to this. And if you go to the website, it has these protocols in place to allow you to exit the site safely, and also reminds you to clear your browser history, because the site knows, and the people that manage the site know how difficult it is sometimes to get the information you need to leave a domestic violence situation. So yeah, these are just some additional resources for you, for anyone who might need them, or know somebody that might need them. But again, yeah, not surprised by what he did. Super impressed by her going in and saying, no, I do not feel safe.
Not a great way to start Black History Month either, because the victim in this assault is Black.
Yep.
So, and one of the things that I had talked about, Jennifer, when you brought this story to us last week, is the bail at $400,000, which for an NFL player with multiple homes just is like, it's a joke, right?
Yeah. Well, his argument was basically he had nowhere else to live in the area because he'd been residing with her, which is bullshit. You can't find somewhere else to live, so you need to go to Hawaii. But again, I want to
World's smallest violin played just for you, bro.
I would like to take the focus on him because I don't think he's worthy of the attention, and just say again how unbelievably proud I am of this young woman for going in and sitting through that.
Absolutely brave, because many victims, especially because there's nothing that's been released. Typically when these things happen, Jennifer, to this severity, what we generally hear, if there were other calls, we generally hear this, right? Police have been out multiple times, and we haven't heard any of this. So what we don't know is she been suffering in silence, or was this a first-time incident? And so a lot of victims, they're like, I don't want to do it. And they don't show up for this stuff. And then if you don't have a victim, it's very difficult to prosecute a crime. Absolutely. And sometimes even if you do have a victim, it's, difficult to encourage them to prosecute. Like I said, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. There was only one incident where the cops were called. There were probably at least 100 incidences before that where the cops weren't called. Domestic abusers get really good at being able to hide bruises on their victims or put them in places where they're not going to be seen in public. But the final time when the cops were actually called, it was because an assault took place in public, and he threatened to break my neck, and it took 4 men to pull him off me. So that's how it escalates. Things don't generally get to that level without some kind of prior incidences. They might have been lesser incidences to build up to that. But again, I want to take the focus off him and just say again how, really proud I am of this young woman. Jennifer, if we try to look at these glasses half full, we have shown 2 very strong Black women tonight in our show. Absolutely. Princesses. Yes. Born of queens. Just, they're tough stories. Yep. Okay, we're going to do a brief little pause for the cause, and we'll go to our next segment.
Black Coffee is a hub for communities and a hub for meeting people, making friends, and understanding.
What Black Coffee is to me is a place to actually call home, a place where Black youth will feel welcomed, where Black families will come and feel like they're at home.
What we're trying to build is more than just coffee. Community is something that we do naturally. We know who's in the community, we know what the deficits are, and we're trying to fix that. We want to bring people together.
My hope is that the phrase grounded in excellence shows up everywhere and that it becomes a movement.
I'm looking forward to hanging out at Black Coffee with my friends and feeling safe.
Black coffee to me means opportunity for people like me and my other friends and family to come here and do homework safely and hang out and stuff like that.
That is happening. It is happening.
Black Coffee Northwest are located in Shoreline, Washington. And they are open Monday through Saturday. And as I always say, the coffee is amazing. The merch they have is amazing. They have different food trucks or food vendors that come to, not food trucks, but different food vendors that kind of offer the full meal deal up there on Saturdays. And they seem to rotate who goes through and what's available. And yes, Jennifer, I have to bring it up again.
Yeah.
Potato scones.
Killing me.
Loving those potato scones. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and introduce the next segment. Our next story takes us to Olympia. And Lindsay, I just saw your question. We do send comms out to our patrons. And by the way, if you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com, whack the Malcontent, and you could be a patron and help keep independent media independent. We ran the spot for that earlier, but I'll go ahead and do that shout out. So Jennifer, Olympia, there was some fuckery that happened in Olympia over the weekend also that we watched in horror as a team collectively. Yep. So if you're not familiar with this story, in Olympia, what happened, a group to support the unhomed did a very similar strategy that was done in Fife and Tacoma. They rented approximately 16 rooms. It's the number I've heard, but it has been a little hard to kind of confirm because things got so convoluted after the police were called in. So it's a little hard to get confirmation on things. But that they rented 16 rooms at the Red Lion Governor's Inn in Olympia for about 30-ish to 40-ish unhomed people, including Jennifer, women and children. Yep. And there was a phone call that was made that the staff there felt that they were being held hostage. And so Olympia sent more police resources to a Red Lion hotel for 30 to 40-ish unhomed people than people that met the Proud Boys on the Capitol on January 6th. Because, Jennifer, we know how terrifying homeless people are to the police.
Especially women.
Yeah, I just went there.
Yeah.
And we have a video clip there of the scene from Olympia from a new friend ally of Malcontent News. And I'm going to go ahead and roll that clip. There is one little chunk in there. It's not like full on warning worthy, but there's one little chunk in there. It's a little hard to watch.
That's a fucking baby. You're traumatizing that child.
it just to be warm. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? If there is a God, I pray to God that you all die a horrible fucking death. Who the fuck does that? There's fucking children. She has fucking babies. Yeah, what the fuck? I know you're looking at me.
So, Olympia police, Jennifer, actually set off flashbang grenades in hotel rooms there. And in the press conference today, tried to tap dance around it. Initially kind of saying, no, we didn't do any of that stuff. But when they were kind of pushed into the corner in the press conference that was going on, they said that, yes, we had to use a couple of munition devices in there from reporters on there. And Shauna is a MSM reporter who is sharing her content with us. And we really appreciate you enabling us to amplify what happened in Olympia. And from others, there was a lot more than 2 booms that came from the hotel.
Man, I am really trying very hard not to say the F word again. I just don't get it. I mean, I honestly don't. What you saw a woman carrying a child towards the end of the video. Like, what were they doing that necessitated flashbang grenades? I mean, these are people in the middle of a fucking pandemic, excuse me, that are unhomed with children.
Yeah.
And they're being victimized.
Jennifer, who was it that said that a society is judged by how they treat their most vulnerable?
Yeah, I don't know right now.
It's a really ancient quote. I mean, it's like a seriously ancient quote. I think I know that's not like your history but it's like a Roman quote or a Greek quote. And we're doing an incredibly shitty job.
Yeah, I'm super, super annoyed this evening. My apologies again for the multiple times I've said fuck this evening.
What was that?
I said I apologize again. I'm super annoyed with everything that's going on.
No, there's no reason to drop the F-bombs. This is a totally uncensored show.
Yeah.
Through a generous donation from the ESCO Corporation. Somebody out there probably got that super obscure reference that is almost as old, that is older than South Park. A generation in crisis. There, I just dropped a big hint. Look what happened at the governor's mansion when 100
cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers
stormed the governor's mansion, some of them armed. One of them was at the insurrection, not at the insurrection. One of them arrested like this violent neo-Nazi dude who attacked 2 MSM reporters who was there. They assaulted a Washington State Patrol police cadet live on television on multiple channels.
You mean the one?
Because that was the only officer that was there to meet an armed mob of 100 that stormed the governor's mansion. And Jennifer, how many arrests have there been? Oh, that's right, 1.
Yeah.
They arrested 7 in Olympia.
They got to comp them numbers with unhomed people and other people because, they can only arrest so many white dudes storming a governor's mansion at a time.
It's just disgusting. And as some of our commenters have indicated, the Biden administration had recently raised the amount of compensation for emergency housing from 75% to 100%, which is what the activists were only asking for, basically saying the money is there to pay for these people to have roofs over their heads. Just use the money that is available to you.
No, I can't do that because, we'd rather buy into the stereotypes about unhomed people and be frightened of them than do anything to fucking help them, right?
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure that the children in that video, there was another girl that we blurred out, Jennifer, probably around 5 or 6 years old. And because of COPA rules and also just out of empathy for the child, we blurred her out. What is that child going to think of the police now when she grows up?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Back to Jason Rance, who fears it's the teachers instilling fear of police in the children. No, fucking Jason, it's the police. I'm sorry.
I just like hitting the button. It's become my favorite button, even over Chuds. And I know that our commenters saying that they think it's hysterical, the button. They like the cartoon and the animation. So, all right, we will continue to track the Olympia story. And I will put this call out. If anybody was inside of there, and if you have, any... I don't think I have my cell phone in here. I was going to hold up my cell phone. I almost always have it. Yeah, Jennifer can hold up her cell phone. If you have cell phone video from the inside and you want to get it amplified, we would love to amplify it on the next show. Because this thing, and you know what? Here's another thing. Housing activists. If you're going to do one of these other things, you can reach out to us on Signal. Because we will pay for a hotel room legit for us to be there. And we will go in there with our camera equipment, and we will be waiting for the police to come in to sweep to document it from the inside. That is an open standing offer to any housing activist. Well, here's my room key. I got my own room. What do you mean I can't be here? Did hotel management say I can't be here, officer? Because if hotel management's telling me to leave, that's a different thing than you telling me leave. Because this is technically private property inside of here. And I'm press. And you shouldn't have to do it. It shouldn't have to be done.
Nope.
All right, we're going to go to the next segment. Jennifer, our research team, it was Harry Truman who said that society will be judged. But I think Harry Truman was quoting something else.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah,
all right, Jennifer, we're coming to the part of the show where it gets a little more interactive between you and me. I led with the Olympia story, so why don't you start with the first section in the COVID update, unless you don't have the show notes for it.
I know I do have the show notes, but my question was, we're doing the book suggestion after the COVID facts, right?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. All right, I will start with COVID fast facts. Oh, goody. So in January, 95,500 Americans died of COVID-19, representing the worst month since the first infection was detected. In Everett, Washington, on January 21st, 2020. This is about 18,000 more deaths than December 2020, and on par with some of the worst months of the 1918 flu pandemic within the United States. Yes, it is. I'm a historian. It is. Okay.
Ground level news. We are big fans of InfoPig also. I just saw your comment go zing by, and we love Jed and InfoPig. And I've had the pleasure of working with him side by side in the field. They are a great source for news. And I just wanted to get that in there. Here's our second one. Ryan Fournier. You're going to love this one, Jennifer. A conservative commentator and fan of Donald Trump reported that the Biden administration had lost 20 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine. As proof, he linked to an article from the website RF Angle that reported the loss. There's a problem, though. It's a conservative news site, RF Angle, that was funded by, survey says, Ryan Fournier. This is a popular tactic of right-wing bloggers to create these circular references. But after the age of Trump, the mainstream media is not having it anymore. And so when asked to clarify by both Politico and PolitiFact, because Politico had originally run the story, Fournier pointed to the Politico article and a New York Post article as his source for the RF Angle story. Fournier has since updated his story because neither New York Post, which by the way is a right-wing rag in itself, or Politico reported that the Biden administration had lost 20 billion vaccine doses, that the Trump administration had misplaced 20 million doses, and the Biden administration is trying to find them now. The bottom line in all of this, the Trump administration's sloppy rollout of the vaccine program has caused 20 million doses Enough to vaccinate everyone in New York City, Jennifer, to go.
Okay, can we do air quotes around missing? Because where
Missing.
are they? Missing. They're missing.
All right, Jennifer, so let me ask you this. Strictly your opinion. I'll give you 3 options real quick. 1, they never got the 20 million. Somebody pocketed the money. 2, they were sold like on the black market or to like my buddies or someone in some country somewhere. Or 3, because of incompetence and all, they literally just spoiled in a friggin' 18-wheeler somewhere or multiple 18-wheelers. And they're just like, wow, we hope no one ever finds them because we actually had to throw them out.
2.
Option 2, they were sold to a crony in another country. Take us to our third one, Jennifer.
In local news, regional restaurants are lamenting the move to phase 2 for 7 Western Washington counties today. The concern that border counties have is patrons will simply drive to areas with open restaurants or eat already battered businesses, and ironically, increasing community spread of COVID in areas that just opened up. We played this out as a hypothetical scenario about a month ago. The balance of commerce over health continues to be a tightrope, with restaurants and gyms opening again just as we get confirmation of community spread of the potent UK variant COVID.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to work out. I mean, look, I'm a small business owner. We are suffering with a capital S with these closures. But I think that like in Kitsap County, that's one area where they're really concerned because it's like, they can go across the bridge right over into Tacoma and everything's open. And they're like, we're just going to lose our business on the other side. And if our numbers are so bad, then you're just dragging those numbers into counties that went over the other side. Now, those owners' arguments are we should be able to open up also. But, there's this push to open up schools and there's this push to open up restaurants. And we have the UK variant that is in community spread all over Western Washington.
Yeah. Do you remember when we played this out about a month ago? We were like, oh, what happens if people just go to open places and then they raise the numbers of COVID because they're driving into counties where places are open and eating and spreading it?
I know that I'm not eager, and neither is Dr. and Mrs. Malcontent to go eat in a restaurant anytime soon. Jennifer, our next fast one comes on the East Coast. The South African variant of COVID-19, which appears to be vaccine and treatment resistant and targets younger populations, has now been found both in South Carolina and Maryland. There is also a strong indication that community spread of this variant is well established on the East Coast of the United States. Jennifer, gets better. Dr. Fauci announced today in some breaking news about 6 hours ago that if you've been previously infected with COVID, the new variants that have mutated in UK, Brazil, California, and South Africa, yeah, you don't have natural immunity to those, and you actually have a really good chance of getting COVID a second time. There is a growing push in medicine circles to go, forget doing double shots on vaccine. We need to slow these mutations down and let's just start vaccinating as many people as we can with one shot. But that's going to be tough because in nursing homes and healthcare centers and stuff, only 38% of the staff has been willing to get vaccinated.
So we're just going to live like this forever, apparently. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, it's absurd. And the fact that we're pushing open to phase 2 with all of this new knowledge coming in is very concerning to me.
It's your turn.
Oh God, why do you keep giving me the ones that make me mad? So we're back to Washington State, where several area hospitals are in hot water for having VIP-only events to get COVID vaccinations. Jumping ahead of the line for first responders and vulnerable populations, Overlake Hospital in Bellevue, was caught arranging vaccinations for their largest donors, and facilities have been warned that future events will result in them receiving no further COVID doses. Capitalism.
It just makes you want to throw up. It really does.
Sad.
All right, we're going to stop the COVID there stuff because we're like so over time and we still have the insurrection update. Although there actually isn't a whole lot. It's not like last week where we had 45 minutes of insurrection update. It's been kind of quiet since Thursday, relatively. But next week's going to be a shit show, Jennifer. You have a few things that you want to talk about, so we're going to let you talk about those. Before we flip you over to that, you have like maybe one more minute to vote in the poll on which of those 10 stories you want Jennifer and I to dive into. And then mods, admins, I don't figure it out amongst yourselves on who's going to go look on the poll and get the final tally. Keep it in your back pocket, but be ready to tell us which story that we're digging into. And with that, Jennifer, go ahead.
So I am a PhD candidate in history at the University of Washington, and every year we do a history lecture series. But because of COVID, our history lecture series this year is online. It's completely free, open to the public. You register through Zoom. But on February 3rd, Professor Bruce Headley, he's a wonderful professor, and he's also the editor of the journal I work at, is giving a talk called Arming the Police and Social Source of Our Distresses that is technological in its origins and will investigate the use of handguns by American police, beginning with Teddy Roosevelt's tenure on the New York City Police Commission in the 1890s and going through, following that arc through to the present day. So if that's something you're interested in, we can get the Zoom link. It's free to attend. It starts at 6 o'clock at night. They take questions, and he is actually a wonderful speaker. And I've heard from very reliable sources that the practice run went really well.
Thank you so much for that, Jennifer. I know I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited.
And what's next?
What's next?
Yeah.
Mods and admins. Go ahead and close the poll. So this is the time for mods and admins to go look and let us figure what the winning story is. If there is a tie, let us know what the tie is. And I say Jennifer and I have our discretion and we get to pick on the tie.
Okay.
And with that, we're going to go to the final segment.
Oh, can I plug my book real quick here?
Or maybe we're not going to go to our final segment. Jennifer, what was it you were saying?
So, because it's Black History Month, we at Malcontent decided that during happy hour, we're going to, rather than talk about Black history as white people, we're actually going to recommend various works, including books, films, music, art, produced by Black artists. And so this week, I actually have this amazing book she's a Black female historian at Princeton University named Tara Hunter. This book was one of her first, put out in 1997, but it's called To Joy My Freedom. It's my poor book is very worn, but it's a really great book that examines basically the lives of and the lived experiences of women as they obtained freedom post-Civil War, moved to Atlanta and tried to create lives for themselves and the ways in which they negotiated this freedom, but also kind of goes through the Jim Crow era and explains why so many people were willing, especially Black women workers, were willing to travel north because of the restrictions implemented by Jim Crow. But it's a fantastic work. The mods, our wonderful mods, have links both to the book and to Professor Hunter's page. So I'm hoping that some of you guys will check it out. Again, it's called To Joy My Freedom.
Jennifer, thank you so much for that. And Jennifer, you're getting huge kudos in the comments. Jennifer and I did talk about this today, and we both felt strongly that being white allies, coming up here and jumping up and down, talking about Black history, not our lane. And we are going to have a couple of guests that are going to be coming onto the show to talk about topics around Black rights, inequality, and Black history. We're going to have our first person maybe on Saturday. Now, some of you might be scratching your head going, Saturday? We'll get into that in a minute. Jennifer, it's time for Insurrection Update. And because you did the last story, I get to start. But Jennifer, I do have some bad news. We don't have any news on your favorite person. She has been quiet since Thursday.
Give it time.
All right, so Insurrection Update, and we're going to start with Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG. Every time you think that MTG has hit rock bottom, she finds another rock lair. MTG, back on November 17th, 2018, wrote a Facebook post claiming that the wildfires in California were created to discredit Donald Trump, then president, by Jews who have orbital lasers. Freaking lasers. The Jewish lasers were fired from space to start the fires. The 2018 wildfires, by the way, Jennifer, were historic at the time and resulted in dozens of deaths. Pew, 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 pew.
Really, like orbital lasers? Where the hell do I get the orbital lasers? That's what I want to know.
Orbital frickin' lasers.
Damn, that woman is batshit crazy. God.
By the way, they can't be sharks because sharks aren't kosher. And I did look that up to make that weak joke. I'm Jewish, I'm allowed. One of the other things I want to say, as much as I am laughing about this, as a Jew, it is terrifying that a congressperson would do that and connect the Rothschild. Like, anyone Rothschilds? That's like, anybody doing that? Yep. That's what they're doing.
Yep. It's gross.
It is.
It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
All right, Jennifer, your turn.
Oh, God, she's awful. Back to MTG on January 7th, gave an interview with neo-Nazi Brit Katie Hopkins. Oh, why? Hopkins has been banned by multiple social media outlets and just about everywhere in the UK, so of course she brought her special brand of hate and crazy across the pond. In the interview, MTG said, quote, "It was a hard thing we did yesterday, but I wouldn't do anything else," end quote.
Congress, 14th Amendment. This is what the 14th Amendment was made for.
Man.
You know, it's interesting. I've read a couple of things, Jennifer, including like there's a couple of people like Democratic strategists that are saying censure her. So essentially like some of Trump's cronies that ended up in the Pentagon, they're not censured, but they've been pulled off. So basically they just sit in an office and do nothing. And basically what they're saying is censure her, pull her off of any committee, essentially just negate her, but leave her in there as a poster child of this is the 2022 Republican Party.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's a good idea, actually.
It is an interesting idea. Okay. Spam those hearts, by the way. Spam those hearts. We go to impeachment now. On Saturday, Trump lost two of his defense lawyers over his legal strategy for his impeachment trial that is scheduled to start on February 8th, shortly after Butch Bowers and Deborah Barbier backed out. Lawyers that Senator Lindsey Graham is said to have arranged. The rest of the Trump legal team said, we're out. We're done. We're not doing this. Trump doesn't want to have a defense based on the First Amendment, Jennifer. He wants to have a defense based upon the election has been stolen. However, lawyers could be censured and disbarred for knowingly making false claims in court. Just ask Rudy Giuliani, Ellen Wood, and Sidney Powell about their legal troubles. Butch Bowers in particular, he had some constitutional chops. Like, he was a legit lawyer and was considered to be a good pick to defend the former president.
Not anymore. All right. But it's all good at Mar-a-Lago as Trump has found two new lawyers. David Schoen was on Roger Stone's failed defense team and is better known for meeting with Jeffrey Epstein in jail prior to his suicide and being on the record he doesn't believe he killed himself. Bruce Castor Jr. was a district attorney for a county outside of Philadelphia and is infamous for refusing to charge Bill Cosby on multiple rape allegations during the 2000s. Man, that's a winning team.
It's a winning legal team, isn't it? I know we're joking about Jeffrey Epstein and his suicide. One of the mods or admins, whenever we talk about suicide, though, we always like to call it out. If you are depressed, if you are feeling suicide or feeling under the rope, there is help. There is help out there. One of the mods or admins, can you please put the phone number in the comments to the National Suicide Hotline, please? Please get help. And another thing I'm just going to flat out say, if you have a loved one who is suicidal, like, get them help, but 911 is not the way to go to get them help. Just look at what happened in Rochester with a 9-year-old child.
Chud. It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
All right, I guess it's my turn, Jennifer. We're now to Fallout. That's why I said it was a lot shorter list here. Infamous Portland streamer behind enemy lines had a moderator named Ryan openly discussing with him about his participation in storming the Capitol on what I'm now calling National Insurrection Day, including to admitting entering the building. Not smart. Just not smart at all. I have a feeling that if anybody's interested in being a mod for Behind Enemy Lines, Ryan's going to be getting a trip to Washington, D.C. soon.
Whew. Damn Ryan. All right, on to more Trump lawyers, or at least previous Trump lawyers. We have Ellen Wood, infamous pro-Trump lawyer who was part of former President Donald Trump's legal team, has been asked to take a mental health evaluation by the State Bar of Georgia. Ellen Wood is facing multiple legal actions for his actions from November 4th to the early January. Adding to his woes, Ellen Wood was fired by a Kentucky teenager that he was defending after the teen was accused of harassing Native Americans in Washington, D.C. I remember.
You remember that piece of shit teen?
I do.
I should be careful. He might sue us for $100 million.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have Ellen Wood to help him anymore.
Yeah, bring it.
I'm starting to like Georgia.
Yeah.
They really fucked up with Marjorie Taylor Greene. But there's other shit that's going on there that it's amusing. That's not the only state, by the way, Jennifer, that he's in the hot seat on, right? Because he's allowed to practice law in multiple states. Michigan's working on disbarring him, and I believe that Delaware has already said, no, ain't happening.
Yep.
Brian Williams on MSNBC mocked former President Donald Trump and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy in a fake news segment on his show. McCarthy, after calling out Trump's contributions to the insurrection, has backpedaled, and he even visited the Mad King to kiss his ring at Mar-a-Lago. In the segment on Williams' show, Brian Williams played the Jerry Maguire clip of, "You had me at hello, and you complete me," as representative of the meeting between Trump and McCarthy.
He did. Yep, I watched it.
Oh, you watched it?
I watched the clip, yeah. He played it off like it was a mistake, but he didn't seem too shook by it.
I have to go back and see it.
Yeah. Yep. All right. As another indication that the GOP is a party that is pro-authoritarianism, GOP Rep. Shada Bullock introduced a bill in Arizona that would allow the state legislature to throw out the vote results and revoke the certification from the Secretary of State of Arizona. But let's not, let's sweep this whole insurrection thing under the rug, because it's fine. It's not going to breed more potential insurrectionists or, lean towards fascism and authoritarianism. It's fine.
Yeah, and the other piece of irony out of Georgia is there are a lot of questions because they elected for the GOP leaders within the party of, I'm not Georgia, but Arizona. And apologies that I said Georgia, Arizona. And they have a lot of questions on the validity of their vote, which, by the way, was all Republicans involved in. And the Republican leaders of the Republican Party are refusing to do an audit or a recount of the Republican vote that voted for their own leadership that their own members in their own party doesn't think is legit. The irony is beyond delicious.
Yeah, I know I read that the other day and I was like, ha ha ha. Just like that too.
Michael Flynn, dirtbag, anti-American piece of garbage, is trying to cash in with the QAnon folks and is now selling QAnon merch. He also wants to ramp up his own new site called Digital Soldiers. And Michael Flynn's name has come up from time to time as potentially being one of the architects of 1-6.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all. How those two things seem totally synonymous with each other. Digital soldiers, though, isn't that just another way of saying keyboard warrior? Really?
I mean, how many times could they slice and dice things down? I don't know. Is he like just kind of like Rush? Hurry up and die. Rush, die. I want to be the next Rush. Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Where's the one? Smoke cigars. Smoke harder and faster, Rush.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Open Secret, which tracks public donations to politicians and their campaigns, has created a graphic linking Tim Oons, Shane Oaks, Megan Powers, Carolyn Red, William Wilson, Maggie Mulvaney, not Megan Mulvaney, Ron Holden, Justin Caporelli, America First policies, Women for America First, event strategies, and Trump Mega Committee with millions in donations to fund the January 6, 2021 rally that led to the insurrection. Why, look at that. Follow the money.
Follow the money, which they were just so freaking stupid that, you know, they just funneled the campaign money that the... Sorry, Chuds.
It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
They took that money that you donated, that you thought was going to defend President Trump in a quote-unquote stolen election, and instead they took that money and spent it on a bunch of other shit. And Jennifer, I was reading that, and you know what? I'm going to the mainstream media on this, because they were like, you know, Donald Trump has a $70 million war check. Wait a minute. Donald Trump had $225 million. So like 225, where did the rest of the money go?
Apparently to fund a really poorly constructed insurrection. Money well spent, Donald.
This one isn't an arrest, and I wish it was an arrest. And it's so, and I like Jennifer, I wrestled to include, but it's so bizarre. We have to include this.
It's bizarre.
Oh my God. Nebraska-based Catholic priest Reverend David Fulton apparently performed an exorcism outside of the Capitol on January 6th during the insurrection while wearing his vestments and his collar. Fulton has not returned multiple phone calls from various news agencies asking for clarification, but the Archdiocese of Omaha has stated, Fulton's opinions do not reflect the views of the Archdiocese. The Catholic Church view on exorcism is complicated and is a rarely given right in the Catholic Church. It is actually the Anglican Church and the Episcopal Church you generally want to call for an exorcism because they're like down for that. I don't know why the Jewish guy is always explaining the religion shit. It was also indicated by the Archdiocese, Jennifer, you're going to love the punchline, he is not trained properly to do exorcisms or the ritual in the first place.
Oh, you know, it's just painful sometimes. God. There are no words. They're just, I mean, for you to get, like, basically called out by the Catholic Church for not even knowing how to do an exorcism. I don't know.
Where are the young boys? I was told there would be a lot of young boys at the insurrection. Oh, did I go there?
You did. You did.
All right, Jennifer, you can do our arrests.
Oh, man, here we go.
It's our favorite part.
John Revlett of Island, Kentucky was arrested by the FBI for unlawful entry on restricted grounds and violent entry or disorderly conduct on Capitol ground. Oh my God, really?
Keep reading.
Video surveillance showed Revlett a fourth place winner in a sexy farmer contest 2 years ago, storming the Capitol. A tipster provided the FBI with a 42-second video from his Snapchat showing sexy tractor dude doing his thing. How do you come in fourth in a sexy farmer contest? That's all I want to know. Well,
He had too many teeth. Ooh!
apparently.
Ooh. Our audience in Kentucky is very upset. By the way, if anybody is watching from Kentucky, I have actually, and mods and admins can confirm this, I have spoken high praise for Paducah, Kentucky, and I've said many, many times, I would not tell someone to specifically go out of their way to Paducah, Kentucky. However, if you were in the general geographic area with a few days to kill, I would definitely go to Paducah, Kentucky. Paducah was cool. I really liked Paducah. Paducah probably doesn't like us, Jennifer, but... we got another cowboy, Jennifer.
Man. Oh, man.
Coey, I don't know if I'm saying his name right here. It's Couy. I have never seen a first name like this. Coey Griffin. He is the founder of Cowboys for Trump, and he's from Texas. He was arrested for his involvement in the January 6th insurrection. Yeehaw! The Law and Order type also wasn't big on following the law, Jennifer. He refused a COVID test after his arrest. And so because he's refused, he is being held in solitary confinement for 14 days to confirm he doesn't have COVID. The FBI used Griffin's own posts and other public statements to build their case for his arrest.
Like I said, Trump, money well spent. Golf clap.
I'm loving the comments. Oh my God. The comments are fantastic. She thinks my tractor's sexy. John Deere Green. That actually, God, who did John Deere Green? Who did John Deere Green? I know we have country music fans. Was that Joe Diffie? Joe Diffie died. I was very sad when Joe Diffie died. Let me know. John Deere Green. I think that was Joe Diffie. What was that?
I used to work in horse racing, and that's all they played was country. But I think it is Joe Diffie.
I'm thinking like maybe it was written by Joe Diffie. I don't know if he sang it, though.
It is him.
It is him. Jennifer, what do I win? Do I win the internet?
No, you get to listen to me give this last little chunk here, which is amazing.
That's winning.
Yeah. All right. So an analysis of arrest records indicate that a number of people who were involved in some of the worst actions during the insurrection not only didn't vote in 2020, in some cases they haven't voted for years. No official reason has been given by any of these defendants. There's no way to know who defendants voted for, as that isn't public information, and not all states publish voter participation information. They didn't vote, haven't voted for years. Again,
stop the steal of the election I didn't participate in.
Well clap, money well spent.
Nobody said they were the sharpest tools in the drawer. It's still, I mean, the individual acts are hysterical. The story themselves are hysterical. But of course, the attack on our country is beyond horrific. And people should really not lose sight that we were maybe 60 to 120 seconds away from a dictatorship. And we owe like the debt that we owe Officer Goodman in particular.
Yep.
Is immeasurable. Yep. And he will not get the, and this isn't, Jennifer, I'm not saying this because he's black. He is not going to get the credit that he deserves in his lifetime. The credit that he deserves will come from historians 100 or 200 years from now.
That's because we're awesome. Yeah. We'll be mean because I'll be dead by then, but.
Go ahead and spam those hearts because we all think Jennifer is awesome. Jennifer, I don't know if you saw in the comments, we have been told what the top story was.
It's Chucky, isn't it?
And you won. It's one of your stories. They want us to bash on Jason Rantz a little bit more.
Love you guys.
So Jennifer, I'll let you go first because it was your story.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, Jason Rantz, this is not he publishes these pieces often. They're often, like I said, either very sexist, racist, anti-LGBTQIA, guised as conservative principles. He has a radio talk show on 770, but also does a lot of work on mynorthwest.com. But he's really just, I'm going to make a pun here, it's going to be terrible, a rancid human being. And I just, yeah, I hope somebody tells him how much I absolutely loathe him and think that his commentary is absolute hot garbage, mostly because it's so poorly constructed, his argument. He's not sourcing anything. He's parsing little tiny snippets of quotes without context. And then the article that I referenced in particular, where he's lamenting the use of basically talking about BLM and what he considers anti-police rhetoric in classrooms during Black History Month. He's lamenting the lack of context by the district concerning the freedom of teachers to present this kind of information, or what exactly is to be covered in the context of diversity during this Black History Month. But he's not necessarily contextualizing any of his quotes. He's just going on this tangent that doesn't really make any sense and trying to basically liken it to radicalization.
Well, we have some history here, Jennifer, before you came on board with Jason Rants. Jason was stealing a fair amount of our content and using it on his own Twitter feed. And we called him out on it. And I actually got to the point that I had to contact his masters at the station that he worked at and threatened them with DMCA. And I actually paid money for a lawyer to write that letter to them. And Jason stopped taking our content. And the thing that irritates me is that, you know, he positions himself as a journalist, not as a commentator. And look, if you want to be a journalist, then don't steal other journalists' content. Go get your own content, Jason. This whole thing over, you know, it's like Black Lives Matter, and it's instituted in, as we talked about at the top of the show, you know, I don't know, what we saw in Olympia, what we saw in Rochester, New York. I think those are the things that make kids afraid of the police. Mm-hmm. I don't think school teachers make kids afraid of the police. Or look, if we want to talk about kids being afraid of the police, look what happened in Florida, because we had so much we couldn't even cover that story, where the police officer tackled the 16-year-old girl, knocked her unconscious, and while she has a closed head injury concussion, what is his first thing he does? Well, I'm going to handcuff her and then do nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's a really not great dude, and I'm going to try to refrain from saying the F word the rest of the evening. Here's my favorite recent one. Rants. DC was under military occupation as Democrats robbed U.S. of an inauguration.
Yeah, Rex Parks is saying he is an agitator and self-proclaimed activist and hates radio replacement for Monson.
Oh, Tacoma, a cop who drove out of crowd was swarmed and threatened by mob. Seattle Council activists pretend Antifa riot didn't happen. This guy, dude, like, let me tell you something. I write, like, construct arguments and analyze evidence. That is my job. I'm a historian. That's not journalism. That's not anything but your opinion and you cherry picking little pieces of quotes that fit your argument. That's not objective. That's not nuanced. It's just straight trash.
You know who also did that this weekend? Brandy Cruz did that. You just opened up the door for me.
It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Sicker, David.
I am. I'm going to sick her on this one. I watched her divide because it really caught my interest because of the subject line. So I watched her divide. It should be called To Divide, not The Divide. But I watched it. And in there, she interviewed Adrian Diaz. So here was one of the first things that jumped out at me. And I actually went to write a tweet about this. And it's like, I'm not going to be petty, but I'm going to be petty on air. You know, about like, here she is and like, oh, they've changed arrest tactics and all. And I'm like, yay, Brandy. Congratulations. It's January 31st, and you're doing an interview about how Seattle police have changed arrest tactics. We wrote about that back on December 4 and did an analysis both on air and in the article with videos and facts and information to back it all up. Because, Brandy, that's called journalism. What you're doing now today is not journalism. What you're doing is Dory Monson, Jason Rants, and you are...
It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
You're not the same. I'm an American. You're a sick asshole.
And then this is why you open the door, because I'm going to call this out at the very end, because she was really trying to get Chief Diaz to talk about a narrative that she wanted to drive. And Chief Diaz wasn't having it. Part of it, definitely playing politics. But part of it is her narrative was bullshit. And look, I know I'm up here. Oh my God, the Malcontent is defending the chief of police of Seattle. He knew it was bullshit, and he wasn't going to go down that rabbit hole. So instead, she was like, "Well, I got an interview with the mayor." And you know what? Did you see it? Well, our audience hasn't seen it. She played like this 2-second soundbite with no context of the mayor. To go basically see, nobody in the city council cares about the excessive murder rate that has happened in Seattle. And Chief Diaz accurately called out, really not involved with the protests. It isn't necessarily gang related. Chief Diaz, in his credit, and if you watch the show, you know I'll give credit to the devil. 50% of the people that were shooters were black. 67% of the victims were black. So he acknowledged this institutional racism, without using those words, within the city. And he acknowledged that some of it was gang related, but he also was like, some of it, I'm paraphrasing, is COVID, shitty economy, people are frustrated. And what she was hammering on, well, are the protests pulling away from some of the resources? And that's where he was kind of dancing around on that. And then here's my argument. Chief Diaz, you have police officers that were mass arresting people for chalk art on a temporary wall, Jennifer. Is that good use of police? And then what? We're supposed to prosecute those people? Because that was Brandy Cruz's argument. So why we're prosecuting people that did chalk art on a wall to make people like Dave Preston and Jason Rance and Brandy Cruz happy, we're going to let someone like Chad Wheeler go away because the system is overwhelmed? It's just
it's gross. So here's my kind of take on journalism. As an educator, you're kind of journalism is you're educating. You're trying to get information across to the public and present a particular kind of not narrative, but a nuanced kind of understanding of the situation, right? So if you present a kind of video clip without context, that I don't know, as an educator, I would never present a video clip in any respect without any kind of context, because it allows for too much of an interpretation and for you to drive a particular narrative in a way that furthers your agenda, which doesn't make you an unbiased journalist. It just makes you an asshole with an agenda.
And I totally agree with that. And that's one of the reasons, Jennifer, when I was editing those videos for Tonight from Rochester, I barely cut them down, because I was like, if I start cutting them down, there will be people in the audience to go, "You're not showing the whole story." Yeah. And it's like, what is one of our core missions? To show the whole story. Yeah, we've ran a 2-hour show because the first segment was 35 minutes long because we showed almost 15 minutes of video. But it was important to show that video. Shell, one of our commenters, forgive me if I'm looking over to the side. That's because my screen's over here, Malcontent. This is what she wrote, and I actually think there's some validity in this. She used to be a semi-decent with her reporting. Ever since CHOP, where she and her crew got chased out and followed, her reporting has gone downhill. I seriously think she has a touch of PTSD from that incident. I actually agree with that statement. But I know that I have, not like she's reading my friggin' comments on her feed, and quite frankly, I don't know if she reads anybody's comments on her feed. But I have called out multiple times where people in the press have been attacked, far worse than Brandy Cruz, because Brandy Cruz was essentially harassed. She wasn't attacked. She got treatment no worse at the end of the day than what I put up with in Olympia 2 weeks ago, roughly. Seen the video, right? And some of the people, and by the way, we condemned it on a feed, number one, and number two, the people that were doing it's like, "Oh, you're Fox News, they were idiots," because they're a local affiliate, they're not national. So all of it was bullshit. But she has not once, with her platform, defended any other journalist, whether that journalist is from the political left or the political right, some of them who have been violently attacked far worse than her. Yeah. So as much as I want to say I agree that there's some PTSD, something that I feel about Brandy, just like Jason, just like Dory Monson, it's about Brandy.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right, I think we've beat that one to the ground, Jennifer.
Again,
Malcontents, let us know. What's that?
I said,
What's that?
Just apologize again for my multiple uses of the F word this evening.
We love it.
Okay.
Jennifer and David are not good sources for an impressionable youth.
No, and I have children.
Not on this show. Unless you're going to be left of center on the political spectrum. Okay, Malcontent. So a couple of things I want to talk about before we wrap up here. There is a protest that is planned on February 4th. I'm not saying anything that's secret. If you're on the socials, it's giving stuff away. I'm not. It's on the socials. It's out there. We are planning to cover that event. January 4th is a Thursday. There will not be happy hour on Thursday, because we will be doing coverage of a protest that is planned at that same time. Roughly, it's starting at 7. There's a big joke in the community about protester time, so it'll probably start 7:30ish. And we're going to cover that. We are going to do happy hour, a special edition on Saturday, and we're going to start that at 7 o'clock. And I will make sure, I'll really try to do it for tomorrow to get a thing on the calendar and get a thing on Twitch, so people remember that we're doing a happy hour on Saturday the 6th, the day before the Super Bowl. As far as the impeachment, our plan is to cover the hearings on whatever is publicly available. We're going to be providing the wall-to-wall coverage on that. I'm pretty sure some of it's going to be this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some of it's going to be like, oh my God. Jennifer, I'm just like, oh, please.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Please let him testify. Please.
No. Did you just hold up a menorah?
Please let him testify.
Wow. No.
And everybody's dogs just went, whew. All right, Malcontent. I would say, if anybody's got a question, I think we could do 2. We'll do 2. And then we're going to, because we're way over.
Yeah, we are.
Again. And we put a shit ton of stories on the cutting room floor. There is stuff that we were like, we're covering that over the weekend, and we didn't even talk about it. Mm-hmm. The 2 officers that got fired in, was it North Georgia, I think, because the body cam video got found accidentally of them being racist chuds. Mm-hmm. And it was just so egregious and so horrible that it was like, you guys are fired. Yeah, we couldn't even cover that one. And I know it takes a few seconds for that to get out to the universe. One more time, spam those hearts. If you're still watching us, this is the time you can spam those hearts. Do we have a Malcontent Facebook group? Well, we have a whole Facebook page. I know I haven't created a group. So, if someone wants to create a fan group, Blendala, Mazel Tov. I'm willing to bet somewhere, Jennifer, in 4chan, there's a fan group for us.
Probably.
Or Gab, or 8chan, or
Target practice, pictures. Better not be my freaking Twitch emoji, though. All I'm going to say is that.
When is website adding chuds to their dictionary? Oh, Webster. When is Webster? Well, chud is an acronym, so it's not a word. It's C. Chud.
Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers.
I don't know. Maybe it's in the Urban Dictionary.
It is.
It is in the. There you go. It's in the Urban Dictionary. I'll have to look it up. Is it? Just cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dweller, or is it something else?
It gives the political definition and the movie. Hang on. Look it up real quick. And I will tell you. Urban Dictionary. Chud. Cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller. Originates from the 1984 film Chud, but is now used to describe ugly, stupid people, most notably the Kevin Smith film Clerks. The phrase is mostly used in America, but is now starting to become popular in the UK. An insult used primarily by people on social left to describe conservatives, reactionaries, members of the alt-right, libertarians, and even mainstream liberals. Generally, the connotation of a very uninteresting and uncool male who contributes very little to society in terms of both productive work and the dictionary, not me.
By the way, Malcontents, we do have a budding TikTok channel, so if you're on TikTok, you can look for Malcontent News and give us a heart or whatever and start following us. We have a whopping 4 videos up there right now. But I have to say, like, I discovered TikTok, and, like, I think 90 minutes of my life disappeared. So...
Yep.
My daughter's been using it for a while. Remember the first time, like in the backseat, I could hear the phone going, Jennifer, and I'm like, what are you watching? Because it just sounded like short attention span theater back there. He's like, it's TikTok. And, it's like I knew what TikTok was, but I'm like, it's like Vine that works.
Yep. Pretty much.
So
they send me TikTok stuff all the time.
And Donald Trump is banned from it, by the way.
Which is amazing.
All right, Malcontents, I think that's it. Jennifer, thank you so much. Another fantastic show. Mods and admins, thank you so much. If you've got feedback, let me see, is that the right... Oh, wow, I hit the right button. Although it's tips. We also actually have a contact form on our website at Malcontent News. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, you'll see a thing, contact. There's actually a form in there where you can send us feedback. And believe it or not, people send us feedback. And we get interesting feedback sometimes. But, let us know because, we're still dialing in the malcontented minutes. But what I was kind of seeing going by, Jennifer, looked like people liked it better.
Good.
All right, that's it. Malcontent out. Good night, Jennifer.
Night, guys.
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
Antifa, fuck you! You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.